From a distance, the Lakers' season looks fine.
Fresh 14 for the Lakers. LeBron! Look out below!
Top 3 in the West. Big wins, viral moments, but teams don't collapse on the scoreboard. First, they collapse inside. In rotations, in roles, in minutes that stop making sense. The Lakers didn't stumble by accident. What you're watching now, the rise, the comebacks, the noise, is sitting on top of cracks that were already there. And whether this season becomes a title run or a quiet failure won't be decided by highlights, but by what they choose to fix before the playoffs expose it for them. Start with the visible facts. The Lakers, as of early January 2026, are a top 3 seed in the Western Conference. A comfortable sounding line that masks a volatile journey to get there. They have had big nights, comeback wins, emotional buzzer moments, and the sort of marquee performances that will trend for days. But reading the period that preceded the climb shows a team that went through an uneven stretch. From late December into early January, the club posted a few ugly losses and a string of inconsistent lineups that forced coach and front office to continually adjust. Those early losses were not simply bad luck, they were signal, a repeated pattern of defensive lapses, poor bench shooting, and an unclear allocation of minutes among older stars and younger role players. Those are fixable problems, but they take focus. If the Lakers are to be more than a headline, they must treat those signals as the diagnostic they really are. There are obvious narratives about superstar fits and chemistry that make for viral takes. LeBron aging like a steel engine, a newly retooled offense, trade pieces stitched into a tapestry of expectations. Those narratives are true in part. LeBron's presence, his leadership, his late-game decision-making remains the vessel around which the team orbits, and his counting stats are still elite by longevity standards. But the most important frame to hold is this: superstars don't exist in a vacuum. They succeed when role players are assigned precise responsibilities and execute them consistently. Austin Reeves' October explosion, a career-high 51 points that suddenly reframed his offensive identity, was a perfect example of a role player seizing a moment and creating new possibilities for the roster. The trick is to make that spike a horizon rather than a headline. Reeves showed he can carry heavy offensive nights, but the Lakers' long-term success depends on whether he and other secondary options can produce that regularity without compromising defense or burning out. The team's slippage early on had predictable causes. First, defense. The Lakers gave up high-efficiency possessions and were often slow on rotations. Second, bench volatility. A bench that could not shoot consistently or sustain defensive pressure forced starters to play longer minutes and made load management messy. Third, injuries and availability, real and perceived, that altered the roster's continuity. Those 3 vectors compound. When bench shooting dries up and rotations lengthen, defensive rotations lag. When rotations lag and stars play more minutes, late-game fatigue reduces finishing efficiency. That feedback loop is what turned a minor December wobble into a mid-season headline. The good news is also a practical one. Each of those problems has a known remedy in the modern NBA. Better two-way role players, disciplined rotation design, and a clearer minute management strategy. But remedies require humility. The coaching staff must be willing to run the small experiments that re-stabilize. The rise half of the arc is not merely the inverse of the fall. It's not a single night that undoes weeks of bad habits. It's the cumulative effect of targeted changes that compound into better outcomes. The Lakers have started to show that. Tactical halftime adjustments, smarter lineups in the fourth quarter, and clearer uses of LeBron's minutes on offense have produced comeback wins. And those wins are meaningful beyond the box score. They create belief. One mid-season win described by National Wire Services showed a team that could overcome a 15-point deficit through a fourth-quarter surge led by its stars and a bench player who suddenly looked comfortable in a primary role. Those are the games that reset a season's psychology. But turning psychological momentum into historical momentum requires 3 structural moves. 1. Lock down defensive assignments. Know who switches, who fights through screens, and who covers the short roll. 2. Standardize bench composition so bench minutes produce predictable outcomes. And 3. integrate load management without creating rotational confusion. If those things happen, the rise is sustainable. If they don't, the rise becomes a glossy veneer. To predict the Lakers' next chapter, we need to look at patterns, not wishes. History teaches useful parallels. Teams with aging superstars and a newly formed supporting cast typically follow one of three arcs: the immediate championship window, when the supporting cast fits quickly; the multi-season rebuild with a superstar, where the team evolves slowly around the veteran; or the plateau and exit plan, where flashes occur but deeper structural faults prevent deep playoff runs. The Lakers of 2025-26 are currently sitting at a branch point between the first and the third. Why? Because they have the star power to demand immediate contention, and yet their bench depth and defensive cohesion are not yet at championship grade. That combination makes the trade deadline and the rest of the season a pivot: front office moves that shore up perimeter defense and add a reliable floor spacing shooter could tilt them decisively toward the championship lane. Ignoring those needs risks turning this year into a one-and-done library of highlights. The lesson from comparable moments, think mid-season recalibrations by other star teams, is blunt. Small, targeted additions that address the precise deficits are more effective than large, sweeping roster overhauls. You buy the missing piece, not the whole bench. The coach's role here is architectural. Coaches who survive these complex seasons are the ones who don't overreact to headlines, but do react quickly to patterns. Pragmatic rotation changes, shortening or lengthening certain lineups by design rather than instinct, will matter. Think of late-game defense. Does the team want a lineup that traps and forces turnovers, or one that protects the paint and concedes open threes? The answer depends on personnel. If the Lakers add switchable wings at the deadline, or if existing wings show they can handle rotation responsibilities reliably, the team can opt for a more aggressive defensive posture, which will allow LeBron and the primary creators to operate in cleaner spaces. That clarity matters more than adding usage. In short, find the defensive philosophy that suits your players, drill it consistently, and let the stars' talents operate inside that structure. No flashy aesthetic will overcome structural incoherence. Front office choices will define the end-of-season narrative almost as much as the play on the floor. The trade deadline is the moment of truth. Will the Lakers invest in a two-way wing who can guard multiple positions and stretch the floor, or will they gamble on internal fixes? Young players stepping up, internal chemistry work, and health returning. The analytics favors the two-way wing. When teams add a reliable switch and close wing near the deadline, historical outcomes show improved defensive ratings and deeper playoff runs compared to teams that relied solely on internal adjustments. That doesn't mean internal development is worthless, it's vital. But the margin between an elite playoff unit and an also-ran is often the presence of a defender who can close space and contest without fouling. So the practical prediction is straightforward. If the Lakers make a deadline addition that improves defensive versatility by even a few percentage points, their playoff ceiling rises sharply. If not, they will likely have to rely on star-level brilliance and hope matchups break in their favor. There are lineup-specific things to watch that will reveal whether the rise is durable. First, LeBron's minute distribution. Shorter bursts of 32 to 34 minutes, but with higher intent in clutch windows, is the modern playbook for aging stars. Second, the role definition for the team's young wings and secondary creators. Are they free launch scorers or disciplined two-way threats? Third, the clutch lineup composition. Which five are the coaching staff trusting in the final 5 minutes? The answers will tell you whether this team is building a system or simply leaning on individual brilliance. History prefers systems. Champions are usually the product of them. The Lakers will need to answer these questions publicly and early. Now the practical long view. What does historically prove look like? We don't have a time machine, but we do have pattern recognition. Teams that start slow but become elite before the playoffs generally do 3 things reliably. They correct defensive tendencies, reduce opponent true shooting on three-point drives and closeouts, add a reliable half-court creator off the bench, or increase the defensive value of bench minutes and manage star minutes to preserve freshness in April. If the Lakers accomplish those three, their historical trajectory shifts from interesting regular season team to real title contender. If they fail, they remain a great story in the regular season and a question mark come May. The margin, as always, is thin. A rotation decision here, a successful buyout signing there, one realigned defensive scheme. But history shows those margins add up. There's also the human and cultural angle, the glue that analytics can't quite measure. Leadership from veterans, how leaders manage the locker room narrative after a loss, and whether young players feel safe to fail in the process of getting better, these are the invisible currencies that tilt close series. LeBron's voice matters, sure, but so does the tone set by role players who willingly do the little things, fight for loose balls, take charges, rotate with urgency. The Lakers' best chance is when the office, the coach, and the leaders are aligned about one thing: process over optics. That alignment creates the patient rhythm necessary to institutionalize improvements, whether tactical, physical, or mental. When teams devolve into blame or defensive PR, they lose the season faster than any losing streak in the standings will suggest. Finally, the narrative payoff for viewers and historians alike will not be a single highlight. It will be the moment a role player who was inconsistent in December becomes dependable in April. The night when the bench closes a game because the defense has learned its rotations. The series when the Lakers' adjustments to matchup problems finally stick. If the Lakers are to rewrite this season from noisy and promising into legendary and complete, their work is quiet, technical, and relentless. Patch the defense, clarify roles, manage minutes, and if necessary, add one vetted piece that fills the exact gap. Do those things, and the early losses will read not as a stain, but as the preface to a deeper story. The story of a team that fell apart in public, and by discipline and craft rose again. So here's the honest, non-tribal conclusion. The Lakers' 2025-26 season is not simply a story of destiny or decline. It is an active narrative that will be written by decisions, in practice rooms, at the trade table, in coaching meetings, and in late-game timeouts. They are top 3 in the West, yes. That gives them an opportunity many teams don't get: the choice to chase short-term sparks or to build durable playoff identity. If they choose the latter, and if they act with the surgical specificity the league now demands, this look of rise after fall will be real, and not just the kind of TV-safe myth fans replay in highlights. If they don't, the early losses will become the easiest paragraph critics will quote when the lights go off. Either way, the next weeks will define whether this Lakers team becomes an encyclopedic season in the franchise's long history or a footnote that almost was. If this story stayed with you, not just the highlights but the ideas behind them, this channel is built for that kind of basketball thinking. I'm growing it slowly alongside a full-time job. Subscribing is the simplest way to make sure these stories keep getting told.